Hey, Bob, the popcorn machine repairman was here earlier. He was asking about you.
That guy? I gave him some movie recommendations a while back. Now it's like he's trying to hang out or something.
Ooh, are you about to have a new best bud?
I think he's trying to get some free rentals or maybe a break on his late fees.
That's actually a pretty good trade-off.
Welcome to Rewind Video. I'm Bob.
I'm Rob.
And we love movies. Good ones, bad ones, old ones, new ones, classy movies, trashy movies. So Rob, reality television has introduced us to a phrase that is just part of the vernacular in 2024. And it's something so familiar that I don't know that a lot of people realize that this is connected back to reality TV in the first place. The phrase I'm talking about is, I'm not here to make friends. You've heard this.
I didn't think reality TV could create anything, really.
Well, I can't blame you for thinking that. And yeah, I don't know that this is a great thing that it spawned into the world, but here we are. You know, I've heard this countless times. And it was originally first uttered on the very first season of Survivor. And since then, it's almost just connected to how reality TV stars behave on the show. They're not there to make friends. They're just there to win. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, I guess if it's a competition, you shouldn't be there to make friends.
I guess not.
Reality TV, you know, a lot of times you're not trying to win.
Right.
But also, you're just trying to be famous, I guess. So
Yes. Well, since this became such a popular phrase, you can find it anywhere. There's a whole episode of This American Life devoted to this. It's mentioned and talked about in Noah Baumbach's movie Frances Ha, and yeah, it's out there in the world. I don't know about you, but I actually I took this job at Rewind Video for the exact opposite reason.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'm actually interested in meeting some film buffs and talking about ranking the Alien movies and debating what should or shouldn't go on the staff recommendation shelf. Not that that's ever really a debate.
It's nice. Yeah, we can filter our friends that way.
Right.
If you rate the Alien movies incorrectly, then you know that they're not going to be a good friend.
Indeed. But movies do make for a great bonding experience, and it's something that we get to do each time we revisit the staff recommendation shelf. You and I are charged with updating the movies that go on said shelf. Each time we do, we adhere to a theme. This week's theme is friendship.
Time to exchange some mixtapes and get matching tattoos.
That's the only way to do it. So this was your film, or your theme. Your theme.
Yeah. I love friendship.
Yeah, it's worked for you.
It's a good thing to do. Have friends.
Yeah.
After all these years of doing the show, I basically choose topics if I have movies that fit those topics and I want to talk about them, or I just randomly pick stuff off a list.
Friendship it's hard to make a movie that doesn't feature friendship in some capacity. I mean, sure, it can be absent, but in large part it's there.
Yeah, or family if it's not friendship, it's family.
Right.
Generally, if a character doesn't have any relationships, it's part of the movie.
Yes.
And if you have no friends, the lack of friendship becomes a theme itself.
With that, I think that, obviously we have to approach this theme in terms of some interesting takes on friendship, or at least even some relatable takes. With a couple of these movies. So.
I mean, a lot of people, as you go through life, what friendship is, what friendship means changes as you get older, as you like to do different things. Mm-hmm. People change, and sometimes you don't stay friends. And being friends is a work in progress at all times.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I know that we've got some interesting takes on friendship tonight. I chose 3 movies that approach the subject of friendship in different ways. Some of them feel personal to me, but I think there's something in all 6 of these movies that people are going to feel connected to in some way, shape, or form. Friendship,
I hope so.
Yeah.
Or if you're lonely out there, maybe learn some things about friendship from these movies.
Perhaps these 6 movies will be an instruction manual on how to make friends in life.
Yes. Like we always say, people come to our staff recommendation shelf, A, for great recommendations of movies,
stellar
and B, how to live your life, or and C, education.
Right. Yes,
and I think this topic is another example of that.
Well, another winner. Why don't you get us started with this one and talk about your first movie?
Okay, yeah. Let's talk about this one. This first movie I'm choosing is from 2011. It is Bridesmaids.
Banger.
This is in the explosive comedies section. Here's the back of the box. Annie's life is a mess, but when she finds out her lifetime best friend is engaged, she simply must serve as Lillian's maid of honor. Though lovelorn and broke, Annie bluffs her way through the expensive and bizarre rituals. With one chance to get it perfect, she'll show Lillian and her bridesmaids just how far you'll go for someone you love. Tagline, save the date.
It's a good tagline.
It is a good tagline.
Yeah, it works.
Works on a poster. Mm-hmm. This is an Judd Apatow produced movie, and like a lot of his movies, this is a coming of age movie, but for people who are already adults. And they have to come of age to the point where they actually have to like kick themselves in the ass and like learn how to grow up.
Right.
All of the ethos of his entire oeuvre is like Arrested Development. Like that's what all of his movies are about, because they're like, just people in their 30s who just like, they need to get a job or get a wife or something,
Right.
But this is a very real time in people's lives. This is when all your friends start getting the real job or getting married or, moving on, getting into the new house or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you're the straggler at this point in your life, like you kind of stick out a little bit.
You do. I mean, we're not so practiced at these stages of life or these things that you're being asked to do, but that makes for good comedy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a relatable part of your life. These are relatable feelings, and I think that's one of the reasons that this is one of the funniest movies in the last few decades.
So many women I've talked to have said that there's all sorts of facets of this movie that even the extreme cases that they can relate to as being a bridesmaid.
Yeah.
And I get that. I mean, that's how you tell a good story and a funny one.
The dress fitting scene. Hopefully that hasn't happened to a lot of people.
I hope so.
That gets a lot of attention because of what that scene's about, and it's definitely funny. It's like the central set piece of the movie. But to me, that's all about Kristen Wiig's "I'm Fine" holding it together performance.
The amount of sweat on her face that builds each time they cut to her is so tremendous.
Right. And like I've had food poisoning before, and it comes on quick. Yeah, and you do sweat like that.
You do,
and it's just like, wait, what's happening? Somebody get me a towel. Yeah. I think it's so funny. She's so funny in that scene. The airplane scene is one of the all-time funniest scenes.
Yes.
And to me, I love the engagement speech, the engagement party speech scene.
Yes.
Which is an example of competitive friendship.
Indeed a thing.
It's just so cringeworthy. And it reminds me of the swingers answering machine scene.
Yes.
But with a microphone and in front of a room of people, which makes it 10 times worse.
This film has something in common with one of my picks for tonight. And the common denominator is when you put people together who don't normally hang out with each other, but are forced to in an extraordinary circumstance, especially when it's around a central common friend, hilarity often ensues. Yeah. And that's what you get here.
Weddings are a great example of those temporary friendships too. Which, they don't really hit on that necessarily in this movie, but we've all been to weddings or, been in a wedding. And then like the people that you're at the wedding with, or they're your friends for that day, and like maybe you got sat at that table with them, or you are friends from different part of this person's life, and you've come into this town, and you end up spending time with these people, whether it's for a day or a weekend or whatever. Yeah. And it seems like, oh, we're friends, and then you never speak to those people again.
Right. But you probably plan to. You might have exchanged numbers or something. It's like we're gonna hang out next week.
Yeah. When I'm in New York, I'm gonna Yeah. But like. Those are real friendships, but they're very temporary. They're very fleeting. They don't really last.
Right.
But yeah, I love this cast. I mean, just like the individual performances are great, but like as an ensemble, they work so well together.
All female comedy, and there are male characters in this. I mean, Chris O'Dowd is great. He's probably the male character with the most screen time, and then there's John Hamm, who's hilarious. He's such a fucking dick. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's just all women all the time, and it's fantastic.
This does have a wonderful cooking scene, baking scene.
Yes.
Where Kristen Wiig, who's not doing the cooking, I'm sure, but she whips up a single cupcake.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty satisfying baking scene. You know, you get to see all the pieces and the parts, and like, you know, you're not going to learn how to make a cupcake from this, but like it is pretty satisfying. And at the end, you get to see the finished product, all this work that she put in for this one cupcake.
It definitely helps build her character and reminds you that, yes, you know, she had a life before things went south for her. And we do, I mean, when we're introduced to her, she is strapped for cash,
yes,
driving a beater of a car, and, you know, having a hard time making rent. But you understand it because, yeah, this business didn't take off, even though that she was extraordinarily talented.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe she's bad at business.
Maybe she's great at making cupcakes, but bad at selling them.
Yeah, because she's like, well, I'm the idiot who opened up a cupcake shop in the recession. It's like, that's true, but like maybe you should have pivoted or maybe you shouldn't charge $10 for a cupcake. Maybe you get if you're good at baking, maybe you should make something that fits the recession then. Like if you're a good business person. But
sadness cakes.
Yeah, so I'm trying to like pile on or anything, but you know. But she's struggling. Like she's basically completely broke and whatever, but great cupcake. It looks like a great cupcake.
Looks delicious.
It looks absolutely delicious.
And she spends a lot of time making it and just bites on into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she deserves that cupcake.
Yeah.
The being in the wedding is a time-honored friendship responsibility that a lot of us have been a part of.
Yes.
And it's an honor. It's an honor, but it's also kind of a pain in the ass.
It is.
Especially if you have to buy a dress or a suit or whatever, and then you have to go to things that you don't really want to go to.
Yeah.
That like if you were just a guest at a wedding,
you
wouldn't necessarily have to do like the rehearsal and like this and that. Which again, an honor, but also it's not the most fun part of the wedding for sure.
No, it's not.
It's a responsibility.
Yeah.
And that sometimes those friendship responsibilities can be a lot.
Oh yeah, it takes a lot of energy. Yeah. It takes quite a bit of money and time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know, this is a time of your life in your 30s, which we think these characters are in.
Yeah.
People are getting married and whatnot, and it's hard to hold on to friendships at that point in your life.
It is. I mean, as an adult, you don't get a lot of opportunities to make friends. Another theme that we'll probably talk about tonight. But this is interesting because you get to see Kristen Wiig develop friendships where she wasn't necessarily looking for them in the form of Melissa McCarthy's character.
Exactly.
And you know, it asks, the movie delves into that subject of like what is it about this person that makes him or her a great friend to me. And Lillian's friendship with Kristen is certainly tested.
Yeah. But I don't know, I think, you know, as I'm getting older, I don't know how you feel about it, but I don't feel like there's oh my God, it's so hard to make friends. It's more just like, because like I'm at a point in my life where I'm just like, I don't have time for like 10 more friends in my life. Like, you know, if it was easy to make friends, like I don't know what I would do with myself because like I barely have time to see the friends I have now.
Right.
As you get older and you have more responsibilities and you don't have as much energy and whatever it is, you know, you can only handle so many friends, and like all the friends you had like 20 years ago, like you're not going to have the same interests that you do with them as anymore.
Oh yeah.
And like you wouldn't want to hang out with all those people anymore. So like it's natural to shed friendships as you get older.
This also dives into a theme that I think is very real for a lot of people, which is you have your friendship. It's based on certain life experiences and a certain type of connection. And when that friendship is forced to change, like it would be when somebody gets engaged and is now going to devote their life to another person, it can be challenging. I know that that's not an easy thing for everyone to contend with, and we see that here.
Yeah, especially when you start having kids and stuff. Like, forget about it. It's almost impossible to stay friends with people.
Right.
But in that sense, like every friendship is kind of that temporary friendship of the wedding.
Yes.
The wedding party. You know, like you have that time together at the wedding, or in like a longer term friendship, it's kind of the same thing. Like we have this time of our lives when we intersect and we have the same interests and have the same time that we can spend together, you know?
Yeah.
And then sometimes those lives disintersect or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. And, you know, that's part of getting older. It's part of being friends with people.
It's a great point.
Melissa McCarthy's character in this movie is a great example of a friend you didn't even know you had. She kind of just shows up and she's like, I'm going to be your friend, whether you fucking like it or not.
Yes.
She's like, I'm here. I'm going to be your friend. Like, I know you don't want it. I know you're not looking for it, but like, God damn it, I'm going to be a friend because that's what I'm going to do.
It contributes to what makes this movie so relatable, not just
Yeah.
for the wedding experience, but the friendship experience.
Yeah. And she's like, she's like, you need a friend, and I'm just going to be your friend. And,
Yeah.
you know, and sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah.
You know, just being there is being a friend. This is a absolute 5-star classic to me. I think this is one of the best comedies of all time. And I normally bring a matching 5-star or a matching review for my rating from Letterboxd, and I couldn't find one that was really that interesting, honestly, because they're all just very earnestly in love with this movie, and they basically say this movie's great. But 11% of Letterboxd agrees with me and rates this movie 5 stars. It has a 3.4 overall, which well deserved.
Yeah, for a comedy. I mean, I was surprised to hear that it's that low, but yeah, comedy is a subjective thing, and for it to be even that is impressive.
Absolutely.
So. Yeah, I think that this movie is going to remain pretty timeless and is going to hold up years from now because there's nothing that's going to date this movie. It's an experience that will endure forever. There will always be bridesmaids. There will always be friends who have to intersect with one another.
As long as people keep getting married, and this is how they do it.
Yeah.
This movie like flirts with Vegas a little bit, but we never get like the Vegas experience.
I know, and I wanted it. I wanted that Vegas experience.
But you know, it's maybe that would be good for a sequel, but we never got it. So
I guess we have that with The Hangover.
Yeah, that is.
Well, great first pick. Fun to revisit this one. It had been a long time since I watched it. I'm going to take us into unfunny territory with my first choice from 1994, and my movie is called 3 Colors Red, from the Always Keep Your Dogs on a Leash section of the store. So back of the box synopsis here. Part-time model Valentine meets a retired judge who lives in her neighborhood after she runs over his dog. At first, the judge gifts Valentine with the dog, but her possessive boyfriend won't allow her to keep it. When she returns with the dog to the judge's house, she discovers him listening in on his neighbor's phone conversations. At first, Valentine is outraged, but her debates with the judge over his behavior soon leads them to form a strange bond. There's no tagline for this movie. It does, in part, challenge the notion of dogs being man's best friend. More so, man being dog's best friend than dog being man's best friend.
Yeah, I feel like we dropped the ball here. We could have had some dog movies, like real dog movies.
Yeah,
this week. But,
yes, I thought the same thing. It's like, wow. What a great friendship that we did not explore.
The dog in this movie, she was living up to her end of the bargain. The human,
absolutely.
not so much.
No, definitely not. Now, Red is the third movie in a series of films called the 3 Colors Trilogy by Krzysztof Kieslowski. So we've had a Kieslowski film on the shelf before with a short film about love. That was also part of a larger series called the Decalogue. This is part of the 3 Colors Trilogy, which is tied to the French flag. You know, the colors are blue, white, and red, and we have 3 movies in this trilogy called Blue, White, and Red. Each film kind of deals loosely with the themes associated with the French motto, which is liberty, equality, and fraternity. This film focused on fraternity or friendship. Each of the films also very much highlight the color that they're named for. So we get a lot of red in this movie.
Also, based on the 2 movies you've brought to the shelf from this director, I assume all of his movies are about some sort of like covert spying on people.
Yes, he does have a penchant for showing some weird hobbies for some of his main characters. And yes, so the judge, who is a supporting character in this film, does have a hobby of listening in on people's phone conversations, which is strange, but it doesn't take long before you understand why it's so captivating to him. He understands the lives of the people around him, which inevitably, yes, if you're listening to every phone conversation, you'd know a lot about the people that live next door.
Would you listen in? If you had, like, if I gave you a little box right here and was like, you can listen to your neighbor's phone conversations. Not that anyone does it anymore, but
zero interest.
yeah, I feel like that's something that you're like, whoa, interesting. And then like 5 minutes in, you're just like, Jesus, this is so boring.
It reminds me of that show from the 80s or 90s, Taxi Cab Confessions, where you're getting a glimpse into what happens in the back of a cab. I just don't care.
Yeah.
Even if my neighbors are involved in scandalous activity.
But at least that show is, we're going to videotape all the stuff and then edit it down to the interesting parts. Like that, I understand the appeal, but like, I don't want to be the guy listening in on all the phone conversations.
No.
I mean, unless there's like something unless you like, all right, I know this guy down the street is like in the mafia or whatever, and I can like listen to that kind of stuff. That would be interesting.
Yes.
But like, if it's just like, oh, I'm just going to randomly listen to my neighbors, like, no, thank you. That sounds fucking boring.
It just, it doesn't seem the least bit interesting. Now, this is a judge who has spent a lot of time passing judgment on people. So I guess I can see a world where maybe he's more captivated by it, and he seems like a little bit of a loner, doesn't have a lot of people in his life.
Presumably he spent a career like signing orders for people to listen to these kind of conversations. Maybe. So maybe like in the back of his mind, he always wanted to do it.
Ah, interesting point. Didn't consider that, but yeah, I think you're probably right. So yeah, this gets a little bit at what motivated me to choose this, because Kieslowski is not afraid to tell some challenging and perhaps unexpected stories about the way that people connect with others around them. This is definitely one of those stories. It's also about fate and chance encounters and how perhaps unplanned, seemingly insignificant events can have a dramatic impact on life. But as it relates to our theme, one of the things that I love about this film is that it highlights a phenomenon that is uncommon these days, which is unplanned friendships forming organically, or because you've run over a pet.
I don't think that was ever common.
No.
Like, I feel like if you run over someone's pet, the chances of you becoming friends is pretty low, and it's always been low.
Yes, indeed. But you mentioned it when we were talking about Bridesmaids, that we live in a time where we're forming friendships doesn't happen by accident. We're at a stage in life as adults where we probably have the friends that we're going to keep for a while. It's not often that we meet somebody new and latch onto them. And yeah, I that might be because we either meet the people that we meet at work or because we're introduced by way of a mutual friend. But it's not often that a friendship is unplanned, and especially with phones nowadays playing such a role in our lives, the way we date and engage with others around us.
Let's be honest, we don't know how young people make friends nowadays. I assume it's online. I can't imagine people do anything in person.
I don't even know.
To meet people. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how
I know there are apps for this, which seems bizarre to me. But at the same time, why not? If you don't have friends, perhaps, that's a way to connect you with people that are like-minded. But this movie also showcases how a friendship can form when you aren't like-minded with the person opposite you. And Irene Jacobs' character and this judge do not see eye to eye on the subject of eavesdropping on your neighbors.
No.
And I think that makes for an interesting dynamic.
Their friendship makes no sense.
It doesn't, except for the fact that they're both thoughtful people. And they both have, an informed perspective on why they feel the way they feel about what's going on here.
There's just a connection there. There's I see that you get it and I get it too. It's kind of like one of those things, even though they don't agree on a lot of stuff, it seems like.
Yeah.
And and honestly, they're not going to be hanging out a lot.
No.
They have a friendship that's very, I don't know, hit and miss.
Right. Yeah. It's not like they're going to invite each other out to, go bowling, which is, we do see some bowling in this movie, but their friendship is based purely on I'm going to go to your house and we're going to talk. And that's a certain type of friendship. I don't have a lot of those, but I respect that it's real.
I mean, how many times do you think that happened? 5?
5, 6, maybe. 6, it does seem like we're led to believe near the end of this film that their relationship will continue. she's going to go back to his house and adopt a dog, and they seem to want to stay in each other's lives.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a movie from a certain period in time where only something like this could happen in the 90s, before we had cell phones with weather apps and even just the ability to text each other. Or I actually appreciate that. To me, this film doesn't feel dated for bad reasons. It's a reminder that this was a time that existed, and it was simpler, and possibly chance encounters like this could take place, and you could strike up a conversation with somebody you never knew before and find something enriching.
You could still run over someone's dog.
Could give it a shot, see what happens.
I wouldn't recommend
make
that
a new bestie
as a way to make friends, though. Definitely not.
Yeah. Critics did love this. It has a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I've seen people compare this to a grown-up version of Amelie, which I can perhaps see, but I thought Ebert had a pretty interesting take on this. He said, "The story becomes completely fascinating. We have no idea where it is going, where it could possibly go. No goal that the characters hope to attain. Will the young woman and the judge ever meet again? What will come of it? Does it matter? Would it be good or bad?" Such questions in Red become infinitely more interesting than the questions in simple-minded commercial movies where we're asked to evaluate whether the hero will kill the bad guys and drive his car fast or blow things up, or whether his girlfriend will take off her clothes. So Ebert definitely passing judgment on our summer blockbuster-esque fare, but I think that he gets at something interesting in this, which is, you don't know who the protagonist or antagonist is, and there's not a lot to ground you in a normal trajectory of movies that we see day in and day out.
I wasn't entirely sure what happened in this in the movie, as far as the kind of the reflection of the past in the present.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if it was a time loop. It seemed to me like I wasn't sure if we were watching the past repeat itself or what. And it takes a tonal shift at the end of the movie, and it started to get a little weird, and I thought that he was going to take his mask off, and he was going to reveal himself to be Satan.
Well,
it really felt like that was going to happen.
I don't blame. I mean, as two film lovers who have a distinct appreciation for Satan's role in movies, I can understand that.
Did you sense any of that? Did you sense some sort of I thought there was a twist coming at the end that was like, and I'm Satan, and this time loop is a satanic time loop.
It's hard for me to remember back to the first time I saw this, which I think I was in high school, and you're not wrong that there's an interesting and perhaps uncanny parallel between this judge's life and another character's life, and it gets to the point where it's almost like, well, there's too much in common here. There must be something supernatural or
he's literally describing this. Yeah, it seemed like it had to be supernatural, but I guess not. I guess it's just like Satan working in everyday life.
Mysterious ways. Yes. Well, this is a 5-star movie for me, and I will say that even if you haven't seen the other movies in the trilogy, this is a fine place to start. It's where I started, and the trilogy as a whole and this movie get better when you see all the films, but you can definitely begin here. This film sits at a 4.3 star average on Letterboxd. 29% of users aligned with my rating. Rudy's 5-star rating was one that caught my attention. He said, "Everyone's arguing over the Marvel comic universe and the DC comic universe, while we have the Three Colors cinematic universe sitting here remaining superior." And
there's no spandex in that one. No.
None. No capes, no nothing. So it's going on the shelf as my first pick.
Good choice. Good choice. My first time seeing this.
Oh, good.
And I haven't seen the other two movies yet.
This is the best one of the trilogy, in my opinion.
Okay, I'm going to bring us up to the year of 2022. It's called The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. This is in the Acid Buddies section of the store.
We also have Mandy sitting over there, if I remember correctly.
That's right. Yeah. Nick Cage spends a lot of time in the Acid Buddies section. Here's the back of the box. Creatively unfulfilled and facing financial ruin, Nick Cage must accept a $1 million offer to attend the birthday of a dangerous superfan. Things take a wildly unexpected turn when Cage is recruited by a CIA operative and forced to live up to his own legend, channeling his most iconic and beloved on-screen characters in order to save himself and his loved ones. Tagline, the most Nicolas Cage movie ever.
It's a good tagline.
It is a good tagline. It's quite a claim.
It is.
Quite a claim. I feel like for Nick Cage, every Nick Cage movie is the most Nick Cage movie ever.
I don't disagree. This one also acknowledges the existence of many of those other movies. So, I think they're tapping into something real.
I mean, it's a key part of this movie. Is Nick Cage's career prior to this movie.
Yes.
The actor playing a version of themselves trope has kind of been done to death at this point. But to me, if you're going to do it, Nick Cage is one of the people at the top of the list of people you want to do it with. Mm-hmm. Maybe like Christopher Walken would be pretty good. I mean, there's a handful that are up there, but like Nick Cage is like definitely one of the top draft picks.
Oh yeah, he's so good for this part. So good.
But it's like anything else, you have to make it good. You can't just rely on this gimmick. You can't just be like, oh, it's Nick Cage playing himself and now the movie's great. Like this is like they actually made it good. And Nick Cage is just luxuriating in being Nick Cage.
Yes.
His own Nick Cage-ness. He's waist deep in it. And it's almost too much. It's almost a parody of what we think of Nick Cage, but somehow it's not. It's almost impossible to parody Nick Cage, right?
I can't. No, yeah.
If they couldn't do it in this movie,
yeah.
Is it possible? He's unparodiable.
Yeah.
But that's what Nick Cage is all about. It's about just like being too much, which is just enough. Because if it wasn't too much, it wouldn't be enough.
He walks right up to that line, peers over the edge, but never makes the leap into too much territory.
I think he's constantly on both sides of that line.
Yeah.
He's constantly too much and not enough.
Just right. Yeah.
Just right.
Yeah.
But I love how Nick Cage just cannot keep himself from acting in this movie.
No, yeah.
In every situation, he's just acting as he's acting in his life. He's acting, I mean, just as Nick Cage, but also he gets the chance to act a friendship in this movie. The CIA is like, hey, like we want you to be friends with this guy, get closer to him.
Right.
And he's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
He's like, I can act for my country.
Right.
But Pedro Pascal is this rich guy, and he wants to spend his $1 million to buy a celebrity friend.
And boy, Pedro Pascal is such a perfect person to play opposite Nick Cage in this part, because just as we could really only do this with Nick Cage, I think you need somebody who's kind of adorable and endearing in the way that Pedro Pascal is, and he's got this adoration for Nick Cage the actor. That
Nick Cage is like this lightning bolt that is like wrapped up in saran wrap or whatever. And like Pedro Pascal is just like, he has this chill energy about him that just like kind of mellows it out. And so like it's a good mix.
And he's quite funny. I mean, there's some laugh out loud moments in this.
So Pedro Pascal is, he's trying to buy this friend. He's under the impression, he's fooled himself into thinking that he's just like trying to get his script made. But like deep down inside, he's like, I think I could be friends with Nick Cage, which I think we all kind of think. I think that, right?
Yeah,
like I feel like if Nick Cage came over to the video store, like I feel like the three of us would be like a pretty cool hang.
I think so. Yeah. I think it'd be fun to spend some time with.
Yeah.
Probably have some crazy stories to
tell.
He
would appreciate us in the store.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So like who wouldn't? That's true. But so Pedro Pascal, like he brings Nick Cage to his compound for the weekend or the week or whatever it is, and like they go through some stuff. They go through an exciting incident, and they start to form a connection because they start to just bond over these things that they've done. And they just kind of become best buds. Like these guys belong together. They maybe because of their like different energies and the way it balances out in the movie. Also, like that's why they're good friends.
Yeah.
They're hanging out. They're watching movies. They're reading each other's screenplays like best friends do.
Yeah.
but this is also a fast friendship, which is, you never know what you're getting in that situation.
No, you don't. And that's a real thing. That it definitely happens. And in fact, it happens at weddings.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
You meet people and you're like, wow, now we're hanging out.
Yeah, we're hanging out. Or you get involved in a creative project. You're like, hey, let's work on this script, which is what they end up doing.
Yes.
And it seems exciting at the time. We're like, yeah, like, man, we really hit it off and whatever. And then you start working on this thing, but then you start to see the other aspects of this person who you became friends with in 5 minutes. And then you're like, oh, maybe we don't fit together as well as we thought.
Right.
And that's what happens with this friendship. It becomes a lot more complicated than either one of them thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
They both get to a point where they both feel betrayed by this friendship. The central question of the movie is this a real friendship? And I think both of these characters struggle with that. I think ultimately we find out that, yes, this is a real friendship. These guys had a real connection, and they really like each other. And if what they thought was happening on either side, like, yes, maybe they shouldn't be friends. But it turns out that they both came to it in good faith.
Yeah. It's a relatable phenomenon. I mean, we've had it happen here at the store where we hire people and it's like, oh, I love the way that you put movies back on the shelf. Like, you seem like really cool. And then those people are like, I want to like add movies to the staff recommendation shelf. And then it's like, oh, that's a bridge too far.
Not really how it works. Just clean the bathroom.
Yeah. But here, you make a good point. It does work, and these guys hit it off in the right way, and it makes for some great chemistry and some awesome scenes together.
Yeah, this movie's funny as hell. It's fun. I mean, fun as hell to spend a lot of time with these guys. It really is a beautiful friendship, and that's what this movie's about. It's about these two guys who kind of brought together in a forced friendship situation, and they went through a lot of adversity, but they came out of it real friends. And they actually enjoy spending time together and creating things together, and that's what it's all about. It's about real friendship.
So I've encountered I've encountered a story online where I didn't read the whole piece, but the headline was something to the extent of Nicolas Cage movies have become their own genre of films. And it's hard to disagree with that. He's in so many things these days.
Yeah.
And some of them are good choices, some of them are bad. It leads me to a question that I have for you. And this is kind of touched on in the movie where, at the start of the film, we see Nick Cage wanting to be in a part, meeting with the director, and making the case why he should be in the movie. Just because of how much Nick Cage has been in. And you can almost not even divorce him from the... you can't divorce him from the parts that he's playing.
Yeah.
Would you want Nick Cage in a movie that you were making?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. What kind of a question is that? I mean, so if I had a very distinct vision for something,
right,
and it had to be a certain way, and like I need this character to be exactly this or whatever. If Nick Cage wasn't exactly what I envisioned for that, no, of course not.
Okay.
But if I were to ever make a movie, I'm probably not coming at it from an auteur's perspective.
Yeah.
I'm probably coming at it from more of like a genre perspective where I'm like, this character is this. Let's see what Nick Cage can fucking do with it, in that sense, yeah, of course. I mean, he's always doing the work. Like he's not gonna mail it in. He's gonna do the work, and he's gonna find out what's interesting about that character. I mean, it might take over the movie, but like that's the point. Like if you don't want that, you don't hire the guy.
Well, I think we had that phase of Nick Cage in the early part of his career where he just had that Nick Cage-ness to him. And then there was a period where we didn't see him in a lot. And then there was the Renaissance where he disappeared into a lot of roles, like Mandy and Pig, for instance, where, there's nothing that even resembles the Nick Cage from The Rock that we all look back on fondly. But, that's a thing. And he can definitely immerse himself in a part and not be the flamboyant, wacky guy.
He always gives 100%.
He does.
I mean, you can't. He never doesn't give 100%. So like you can't take that away from him. I give this movie 4 stars. I had a ton of fun with this movie.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. I found a 4-star review on Letterboxd by Elric Kane. He said, Somehow they found what little joy still existed in the universe and squeezed it all into this film for us. And I definitely agree with that. This is a return to like the buddy comedies of old.
Yep.
Buddy comedies, that's about friendship. Buddies, friends, same thing.
Same thing.
I think this movie's a ton of fun. And if you haven't seen it, definitely pick up a copy of it here at the store. It was not popular. This movie was a bomb at the box office somehow, which I don't get.
Crazy, yeah.
But hopefully it's gonna get some business on video.
Yeah, for being a movie that mentions unbearable weight in the title, this is not a heavy movie at all. It's light, it's fun, it's easy to watch.
Probably a bad title from a marketing perspective. I gotta say, it sounds like a book.
Yeah, it does. It does. So, reminds me of a heartbreaking work of Staggering Genius, which was a Dave Eggers book.
Yes. I don't think it's a good title if you're trying to make money. I mean, it's not a bad title for the movie, but again, the marketing on this probably didn't do anybody any favors.
It's a hard movie to market, but
is it? It's Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal being bros having fun. Like,
yeah,
I don't think it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a little high concept. I don't know.
It is. There's a, for lack of a better term, a meta-ness about this that is hard to encapsulate in a 2-minute trailer. But
I feel like our culture's at a point where like this is not hard for people to understand.
I agree.
I think I'm not saying it's just the title's fault, and I don't think 2022 was a great year for the box office because of COVID and stuff. Sure. So like but anyway, if you haven't seen it, this movie is a ton of fun.
Give it a watch.
Pick it up. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. So with my second choice, I'm staying in a similar era. Again, a different vibe.
Same century.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to 2017 from the I've Got Friends in Low Places section of the store. And my pick is Thoroughbreds. I'm going to give you the back of the box. Childhood friends Lily and Amanda reconnect in suburban Connecticut after years of growing apart. Lily is now a polished, upper-class teenager at a fancy boarding school. Amanda has turned into a sharp-witted outcast with an attitude. Though they seem at odds, the pair bonds over Lily's contempt for her oppressive stepfather, and they begin to bring out one another's most destructive tendencies. Their ambitions lead them to hire a local hustler and take matters into their own hands to set their lives straight. Tagline, bad tagline. Good breeding gone bad.
No,
it does not work.
No, that's bad. It's a reference to the title of the movie, which doesn't make a lot of sense in the first place.
Right? Yeah. I think based on the title and the tagline, I wouldn't blame people for not picking this up. Or, it's just neither of them work.
Yeah.
But the movie I think is pretty terrific. So, it is indeed a film about how certain friendships can bring out the worst tendencies. Impressively, this is a debut film by Corey Finley. And so Finley directed Bad Education and the recent We Crashed series, which chronicled the WeWork saga. In my opinion, this does not feel like a director's debut film. There's a lot that's done really well here. Just some impressive technical intelligence on display. I think that it's shot incredibly well. The sound design is terrific, thoughtful, very everything that he does behind the camera is a great addition to the narrative.
Yeah, it seems like he's a seasoned director.
Yeah. And interestingly, this was originally written for the stage. It was designed to be a play, which makes sense. It all takes place in a mansion for the most part.
A lot of talking.
A lot of characters talking to one another. But it lends itself well to the screen. I thought that he brought it to life in a pretty tremendous way. We get Anya Taylor-Joy before she was in Queen's Gambit or Last Night in Soho. There's also Olivia Cooke playing her outcast friend long before Cooke starred in Ready Player One or Sound of Metal, another movie we've had on the shelf before.
Friend of the shelf.
Friend of the shelf, yes. Both of these actors kind of showing up in an early role here. So you see them putting on display a lot of the chops that earned them bigger parts following this film, maybe because of this film. This was also Anton Yelkin's last film before his untimely death, so great reminder of how awesome he can be in the right part, and shame we lost him. But why did I pick this? So sometimes you have that friend who indeed brings out the worst in you. They have a way of finding qualities in you that should not be magnified. And
I mean, who do you blame in that situation? Because it's like, I don't know. I feel like there's a tendency to say like, well, this person's a bad influence and this is the reason. But like at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I feel like she wanted to get involved. You know what I mean? Like there's a piece of her that wanted to do this, and it's kind of like a permission slip. When you have a friend like this that like doesn't give a shit or whatever, it's like, well, I can do whatever I want because, you know, it's almost like that's why you become friends with somebody, because it allows you to. It opens the window of possibilities to be like, well, I mean, my friend does fucked up shit.
Well, it's interesting that you bring this up, because something we learn in the first few minutes of the film is that these two characters are brought together because in a forced way. They're not necessarily choosing to reconnect.
But they have a history.
They do have a history. Yeah, they used to know each other, and they grew apart, and then Olivia Cooke's character does something pretty outrageous, and that further distance them perhaps. But yes, now Lily is tutoring Olivia Cooke's character in preparation for college exams. Yeah. And so they're back in each other's lives. But, you know, I think what this is exploring is that both of these characters are the wrong person to be engaging with the opposite character, which it's not a case of frenemies. It's more just that each of them are bringing out something in the other that is best left undisturbed.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're also using the other person as an excuse to do
things,
bad things.
Yeah, to make bad choices. And this reminds me of this to me is relatable, because it reminds me of that time in high school where, you know, suddenly the class of students that you're a part of is much bigger, and you're meeting new people. And I remember my parents talking about those friends who might not be good influences on me. And this is definitely a case where, these girls, not good influences on one another. In fact,
I mean, I remember being warned about the bad influences. You know, we all got those warnings, but also I remember thinking like, I think I might be the bad influence, and like my parents are misreading the situation.
Yes. There's also something else going on here, and it reminded me of something we talked about when we discussed Cruel Intentions.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it's that quality of high school students having this self-entitled attitude where they think the world revolves around them. Anya Taylor-Joy's character especially suffers from this. She has a stepdad who she hates, and he's kind of painted as a villain here, but he only seems like the villain because we're getting her character's point of view. And the movie prods you to contemplate whether he's really as awful as she thinks he is, and in my opinion, he's not.
I mean, obviously, he doesn't deserve what he gets. But also, like he wouldn't be somebody I would want to be friends with.
No.
Like, he's definitely kind of like, he's that guy. He's kind of a douchebag, but like he's not evil.
I don't think he's evil.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that a lot of his choices are motivated by the fact that we have two very rich people, in the case of, you know, Lily and her friend, who are used to a rich lifestyle and thinking of inconveniences in life as tragedies.
Yes.
And they end up succumbing to bad behavior because they're not used to anything that is not going their way, which again, it reminds me of what we see happening in Cruel Intentions a lot. This is especially true of Anya Taylor-Joy's character, but it's also present with Olivia Cooke. You know, her character is numb to the world. When you don't have to work for anything, I can see that being true. She's definitely a character who's not as rich as her friend, but has had everything handed to her.
Basically, yeah. And somehow she's managed to let a lot of it slip through her fingers.
Yeah.
Which happens. Which, you know, not every 15-year-old has it together necessarily.
Yeah.
But also it's also like to watch it from the outside to be like, how can you be so ungrateful?
Right.
You know, like,
Yes.
yeah, whatever his name, the dad, Todd is probably his name, whatever it is.
Right.
Like, you know, yeah, not a cool dude. If he was my stepdad, I'd be like, yeah, he's kind of a, you know, not a, you know, he's kind of a dick, but like, whatever. Like,
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, you're
yeah.
part of his life for that short period before you go off to college and become an adult, and then you're off on your own. And I don't know. You learn little tidbits about Taylor-Joy's character where, you know, she's flunked out of boarding school or whatever, and she's definitely had some problems, and I don't necessarily blame her stepdad for losing some patience with her, but yeah. What we end up with here is a slow burn, noirish thriller that dabbles in some horror elements without being a horror movie. Like I said, it's shot incredibly well. Performances across the board are great, but these two girls especially shine. I think that they also seem the right age for their characters, which you don't often get when we're talking about high school students in a film. The dad, as you mentioned, is awesome. I think that he straddles that line between being a villain and just a dad. Critics like this, so did Letterboxd users. Film averages a 3.5. The user Bell had a thoughtful take saying, "Shout out to the casting director for doing her job correctly in giving roles to the best actors," which, yeah, that's their job, and it happened here, and they performed it well. So.
Bad friendship.
Yeah. Do you think that this is a true friendship between these two characters?
No.
No. Are they using each other?
Absolutely. But I mean, that's kind of what a lot of friendships are when you're teenagers, I think.
Yeah.
Well, even if you don't realize it, you know, you're like, hey, you know, this guy's got cool video games or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, like, that's just a way friendships go sometimes when you're, you know, between the ages of 8 and 15 or however old, you know. I think those kids are selfish and they don't realize that sometimes who you think are your friends or you're just using them for convenience.
Yeah. I don't know that Olivia Cook's character could really be friends with anyone. And Anya Taylor-Joy's character needs that right friend who's going to help her get a very particular job done.
Exactly.
Well, this is going on the shelf as my second pick, Thoroughbreds. Check it out if you haven't seen it.
It's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to choose another interesting movie. I'm going to go to the year of 1987. Movie I'm choosing is Miami Connection.
Miami Connection.
This is filed under Frenzcata.
I see what you did there.
Here's the back of the box. In a world where ninjas dream of being rock stars and rock stars dream of being ninjas, a martial arts rock band goes up against a band of motorcycle ninjas who have tightened their grip on Florida's narcotics trade.
Only in Florida, right?
Oh, yeah, only in Florida. Tagline, greetings from the most dangerous jungle in the world, the streets of Miami.
Boy, I've never been to Miami.
Yeah.
But this makes me want to visit.
I mean, as far as I know, most of the characters in this movie have never been to Miami. This movie doesn't take place in Miami, so the tagline makes no sense. I mean, the title makes a little bit of sense because it's a connection. There's a connection. The first scene of the movie takes place in Miami.
Right.
This is a regional martial arts movie out of Orlando, and that's where it was made. That's where it takes place. Orlando, to me, is always kind of like the most Florida of Florida's cities. It's like all of the Florida, but none of the coastline. You know, because like Florida, the only reason Florida should exist is because it has beautiful coastline.
Yeah, beach on either side.
Yes, tons of beaches.
Yes.
And Orlando is like not on the beach.
No beaches.
I mean, I guess
fountains.
People are into Disney and stuff, but you know, but to me, it's like the point of Florida is to sit at the beach, and if you're not on the beach, useless. And so Orlando is just, I don't know, it just kind of like signifies what the Florida experience is.
Right.
But this is a movie that kind of mostly came and went in 1987, but it's become a cult hit over the years.
Yeah.
It was resurrected by Drafthouse. The story is they found a print on eBay. And
really,
yeah, and they were like, we got to like release this movie to people. People need to see this, and so they restored it. It's gotten more popular over the years. It's recently received like a 4K restoration. from Vinegar Syndrome.
Wow.
So it's become like a real cult hit.
Draft House is not who I was expecting you to cite, because I know the Mystery Science Theater guys did a Riff Tracks take on this.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure if that was where it kind of came back into the zeitgeist.
I think the Riff Tracks came after
Did it
Draft
come after?
House. Yeah, 'cause I think they, like I said, I think they literally found a print of it, and they're like, this is amazing. Like, people need to see this movie. I don't know if you've noticed, but my third slot has kind of turned into this like midnight movie.
I have
slots.
noticed that. In fact, when I started 5 minutes into this, I thought, of course, this is a Robb movie. No one else. I don't know anyone else that would have chosen something like this, and I appreciated it more for that fact.
I think that that's kind of how I'm going to start viewing these staff recommendation shelf selections. It's kind of just like like an 8, 10, 12 showing.
Do we need a midnight movie theme for a future staff recommendation shelf?
I'm taking care of it week by week.
Might upset your system a little bit.
But like, this is like a natural midnight movie.
Oh,
This
100%.
is exactly the kind of thing that a midnight movie is. And so like, I'm not saying every time I'm going to do it, but like, that's kind of, I think that's going to, I'm going to look at my programming,
All right.
as it is.
Peek behind the curtain for our listeners.
Yeah, the music in this movie rules. I think you probably weren't expecting it to be a musical.
No, I was not.
Because not only are these guys best friends, they attend Central Florida University together, they do taekwondo together, but they're also in a rock band together, and they perform shirtless.
Well, when your band is named Dragon Sound, the music has to rule.
Yes, people expect it.
Yeah, people expect it, and this delivers.
They're the house band at Park Avenue, which is the hottest club in Orlando, which I don't know if that sounds sad or not. It kind of sounds sad.
It does sound sad. Yeah.
In one subplot of the movie, the previous house band at Park Avenue decides they want to get their old gig back by force, and so they decide to go to this ninja gang and say, here's an actual line of dialogue from the movie. I'm the leader of a group that played at Park Avenue. We got fired and the new group beat us up. And I mean, holy fuck. What kind of, that's amazing dialogue.
Well, this movie reminded me of something that we talked about when we discussed duets together a long time ago. And
Long time ago.
Duets raise the question of, is there a karaoke scene in the world that we are not familiar with? And, is it populated by people who just can't stop singing?
Yeah.
This movie asks the question, is there a house band culture in America that I don't know about, but I should know about? Because we are both fans of house bands at bars, and wow, maybe there's some drama.
I'm sure that there's more drama than we know about.
Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing is this band goes to a criminal organization and it was like, get our job back for us. And but they were like, we'll give you the money we get from this job.
Right.
They literally say like, whatever we make, we'll give it to you.
They're in it because they love to play music.
We just want to play at the hottest club in Orlando.
Right. Who can blame them?
Why? Plus, we got fired and the new band beat us up. Like, to me, that's like, well, no, like, you don't get the job back. I'm sorry. Like, the new band beats you up and you're willing to do it for free. Yeah. I mean, come on. There's a song over the opening credits that like is an exposition for the rest of the movie. It's like bikers by day, ninjas by night. And it's telling us what's happening as it's happening on screen.
Right.
And also, like, by the way, like, ninjas on motorcycles kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah. That's not how you ninja.
Yeah. It's definitely not how you ninja. But I do respect the fact that, the songs that they write, they apparently compose them on sheet music. Note by note. Did you notice that? He's like, I'm writing this song, and he's writing out the sheet music.
Maybe that's how house bands do it, Rob.
But yeah, there's a song that's messing with the tough guy that plays when like the tough guys, the bad guys on screen. There's a song that they wrote in the course of this movie called Against the Ninjas. That's about how they are fighting a bunch of ninjas. And I gotta say, like, the people at Park Avenue fucking love this song. Like, people love this band.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, the kids in Orlando love songs about ninjas. And they've got their, like, Pat Benatar sidekick that, like, sings all the songs. And, like, she's fucking great.
Yeah.
But the main song of the movie, and it's kind of the thesis statement for the movie, is Friends for Eternity. And it introduces the characters. It lets us in on their relationship. You know, these guys have been through it all. Like, you know, but they're always going to be friends.
Yeah.
And, like, no matter what the world throws at them, whether it's ninjas on motorcycles or letters from the Department of Defense, like, they're always going to be friends.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
nothing can stop. Friends forever.
The theme of friendship is strong in this film.
I view Dragon Sound as kind of a parallel dimension Zack Attack.
Oh.
I don't know how familiar you are with Saved by the Bell.
I am. Quite.
But their big Zack Attack, the band from Saved by the Bell, which I think was in 1 or 2 episodes.
Right.
But their big hit was Friends Forever.
Yeah.
This is Friends for Eternity.
Which is longer?
The songs?
No, Eternity or Forever.
Eternity or Forever. I mean, they're equal amount of time. But also, I don't know if you noticed, but in Miami Connection, the apartment complex that they live in is called Bayside.
Ooh, wow. There is
weird connection.
Yeah,
weird connection.
Yeah, quite a parallel.
I do have a question about Jim's style. Because when he's at home, he's hanging out in tidy whities.
Yeah.
With black jeans on top, but like unbuttoned, unzipped.
Okay, it's a choice.
I guess, like, I don't know. I guess my question is, like, is that something he wears all the time? Is that something like it's cool to wear in your house with your bros, with your friends?
I don't know. I feel like,
because, like, you're clothed, like, you're covered.
I was around in '87.
Yeah.
I wasn't living the Dragon Sound life necessarily,
Yeah.
but
we were hanging out with some orphan bros.
I just can't imagine a time in modern history where if I had my pants unbuttoned and unzipped and and my friends came over to hang out, where that would be acceptable.
I mean, but also, like, if you're wearing sweatpants, like, nothing's uncovered.
Nothing's uncovered.
It's just weird.
It is weird.
But, like, these guys are, like, really close.
Maybe I just haven't had friends like these.
Yeah, maybe that's what we're talking about here. This is this is a real friendship, you know?
Yeah.
Like, these guys, they're in a band together, they play shirtless music together. I don't know, like,
well, you know, you're asking a style question, and it reminds me that I had a style question to ask you about this movie.
yes.
So, Miami Connection, we see some pretty stylish red shirts that say Dragon Sound on them. Mm-hmm. We're also fond of a movie called Rad, where some red shirts with the Rad team logo is on them. And if you had to choose one shirt between these two shirts, these two red shirts that represented your connection to...
You can't choose.
You have to choose.
You can't choose. Yeah. They're both too great. I can't choose.
I mean, there are 7 days in a week.
Yeah, so. That's true. I can wear 7 shirts a week.
Yeah.
So this seems like an obvious 5-star movie for me, but it's a 4-star movie for me.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you the reason for that is that I'm waiting for a 5-star experience. I've seen this movie a few times.
Okay.
But at home, I you know, on video, I'm waiting for like an experience of watching this movie with several people, really getting the true midnight movie experience.
Well, I've got a recommendation for you. So I think what's missing for you is you need to invite some close friends over.
Yes.
You need to unbutton your pants. You need to have some tidy whities on underneath. And you need to just let this film wash over you. See what happens.
Absolutely. So like I said, I'm waiting for the 5-star experience. So for me, this is a 4-star movie.
Okay.
On deck for a 5-star. So I did find a 4-star review that I quite enjoy, and it's by Letterboxd user Josh Lewis, and it reads like this. Sort of like watching a hot couch guy obsessed with ninjas, biker gangs, Streets of Fire, and Bruce Lee movies wake up from a dream at 3 a.m. and badly try to recall the episode of Miami Vice that was on TV when he passed out. Which I think sums up why I love this movie. But for now, I'm putting it up on the staff recommendation shelf, and you haven't checked out Miami Connection yet, you definitely should.
So usually your midnight movie, oftentimes 5-star picks in this category of film, net out at a 2-star rating. And I'm on record being pretty critical of the B movie category, and I think it's safe to say this is part of that.
You're more of an art house guy. Well, you're programming the 12 noon show.
Yeah, I can see why you'd say that. But, we've talked about B movies that I do not like, such as The Death Spas, which, was a part of our don't watch these movies, we don't recommend these films theme. And then you've got movies like The Blob, which are B movies that I absolutely love. This was more than a 2-star movie for me. This is a 3-star movie with potential to grow into something more, but it's going to take a lot.
Yeah. I mean, our star rankings are fluid. I'm very open about that. I'm every 3-star movie, hopefully one day will be a 4, and 4 hopefully one day be a 5.
Yes, absolutely fluid.
So
there's room to re-rank.
Absolutely. But 3 stars, I think that's from coming from you for something like this, I think says a lot.
Using your criteria, I would watch this movie again.
Well, I can't wait till we have our 5-star experience.
I hope it happens. All right, I'm going to round things out with my final pick for tonight. This one comes from 2002, and my movie is 25th Hour. So back to the box synopsis for this. In 24 short hours, Monty Brogan goes to prison for 7 long years. Once a king of Manhattan, Monty is about to say goodbye to the life he knew, a life that opened doors to New York's swankest clubs, but also alienated him from the people closest to him. In his last day on the outside, Monty tries to reconnect with his father and gets together with 2 old friends. And then there's his girlfriend, who might or might not have been the one who tipped off the cops. Monty's not sure of much these days, but with time running out, there are choices to be made as he struggles to redeem himself in the 25th hour. Tagline, pretty lame. Can you change your life? Can you change your whole life in one day? No thanks. So this was the time when Spike Lee made a movie with an almost entirely white cast. Not an expected thing from him, but it works. An interesting anecdote about this film is that, and one that it's probably not remembered for, is the fact that 25th Hour was one of, if not the first, overtly post-9/11 movies. The tragedy and the consequences of 9/11 are a major theme in this film, and it's no surprise that Lee, as a proud New Yorker, decided to confront the topic so purposefully.
Yeah, you don't see that a lot. I mean, I can't think of too many movies that have even acknowledged it, really.
No, we had movies like, World Trade Center and United 93 that were trying to tell the story of 9/11, but not something like this that was like, all right, we're going to deal with the consequences of that, especially on the town that was impacted very dramatically.
Or even just to reference it kind of in the background. That's almost like a weirder thing to do.
Right. But this isn't a movie about 9/11. It's about Edward Norton as Monty Brogan in the final hours before going to prison. I've always viewed this movie as a continuation of Norton's character from Rounders. It feels like, he's definitely channeling some worm energy, especially, when we're flashing back to those periods of time where before he's been convicted of the crime. It just seems like he's picking up where Worm left off.
Right. Worm's been hit with some reality.
Right. But Norton isn't the only big name here. We also get Brian Cox, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Anna Paquin, Rosario Dawson, Barry Pepper, who disappeared off the face of the earth at some point in the mid-2000s.
I'm not sure what happened there.
Yeah. But there's also Isaiah Whitlock, who most people remember from his part as State Senator Clay Davis from The Wire. Here he debuts his trademark she. But he actually did it here before starring on The Wire. So this is where it was forged.
You could have a worse catchphrase.
You could have a worse catchphrase, yes. Another facet of this movie that it's remembered for is the monologue that Norton gives, where he unloads a diatribe of criticisms on the many people who make New York the glorious melting pot that it is. I think that this is a love letter disguised as a hate letter. It certainly hits hard, especially 20 years later. It's a great piece of writing, but it comes from knowing and loving the city that you're a part of.
Yeah. I mean, it recalls the similar scene in Do the Right Thing.
Yeah.
A lot of that. I don't know. But also, like, that's kind of what the people that love New York love about New York. I mean, it's the fact. I mean, yeah, it's all this stuff that, like, you can complain about it, but it's all part of it.
Yes, it is all part of it. That monologue was ripped almost word for word from the book that this was based on. And that was written by David Benioff, who most people know of from being the creator of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, weird.
So he wrote the screenplay for this. Why did I choose...
Wait, he wrote the book and the screenplay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Why did I choose this? At the center of this story is Norton's relationship with his two oldest friends. And these are the two people that he wants to spend his last night with before going to prison. Two guys that have definitely gone on to lead very different lives from Norton's character. We don't know kind of what the dynamic was like when he was originally close with these two dudes, but they're the ones that he chooses to kind of go out with a bang and hang out with on his last night out of prison.
I mean, I guess that says who are your real friends. Like, if you're going to prison for X number of years,
yeah,
who are you going to get drunk with the night before?
Yeah, and it makes for an awkward evening. It's a little bit weird at times. Like I said, it makes you wonder what brought them together. But this. I think there are definitely some parallels here between this and Bridesmaids, because what you get almost feels like a bachelor party where guys from different phases of life are all brought together to celebrate one person. They might not have a lot in common, but what they want to do is spend an evening celebrating this one person kind of at the center of things. And
right.
Differences aside, that's what it's all about.
Well, at least Barry Pepper's character is looking at it like, this is probably the last time we hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a different perspective. But also, like, I feel like their friendship, all of their friendships, is based on just like longevity at this point.
Yeah.
And like, maybe these guys don't even belong as friends anymore.
Yeah.
And like, maybe if this guy wasn't going to prison, they probably wouldn't be hanging out. And this is like their last chance. But like, maybe this is their last hurrah. But like, maybe if he wasn't going to jail, they never would have hung out together all together at once.
In that respect, this is reminiscent of even The Hangover, where you get this motley crew of dudes who are hanging out together, and their friendship formed in different ways, and here they are now later in life. But
one last hurrah.
One last hurrah. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot that unfolds during this night together that is less than expected, but every time I watch this, I find myself thinking about friendship. What would it be like to reconnect with friends that I haven't seen in a long time? There are definitely people that I remember being very close to, either during college or even high school, and haven't seen in a while. And I might think, yeah, I'd love to spend some time with those folks, but I don't know what it would be. I don't know that it would be great.
How do you get back to... like, if we're going to spend I don't want to spend an hour, like, catching up. Like, what have you been doing? Like, no, I'm not interested in that. So,
yeah, it makes me wonder even about Norton's character in this movie, where he has to go, he chooses to go back to friends from a long time ago rather than people that are immediately in his orbit.
Yeah.
And,
I think people in his orbit maybe aren't
less than
the
desirable.
people you want to hang out with.
Yeah, for sure.
On your last night of freedom.
Yeah. So this is definitely one of my favorite Spike Lee movies. Even if the editing style feels a little bit gimmicky today, it's
Yeah, the editing
dated.
was weird. I don't know that it really worked for me.
Yeah, it's got some weird jump cuts and some like we're gonna play back this scene more than once from a different
Right.
angle. Yeah, it's
like a awkward Tony Scott thing. that
Yeah.
didn't quite work the way Tony Scott could do it.
nobody can be Tony Scott but Tony Scott.
It's true.
Nobody can be Spike Lee but Spike Lee.
That's true.
So this one clocks in at a 3.9 on Letterboxd, and a vast majority of the users aligned with my 4-star review, 33% to be precise. I loved Jay's review, which highlights something I also appreciated about this. He says, Spike was always calling out Trump and R. Kelly. This is big King energy right here. And yeah, this movie takes a jab at both of those guys long before they were in trouble for the things that they were in trouble for. And yeah, got to appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Well, Rob, we talked about friendship tonight and all the friendly and not so friendly things that friends do when they express friendship. The movies that made their way to the shelf are Bridesmaids, 3 Colors, Red, Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, Thoroughbreds, Miami Connection, and 25th Hour.
If you like websites, go to rewindvideopod.com where you can drop us a line, get on our mailing list, or find us on social media.
Next time, we're trading relationships with people for relationships with a higher being. Religion is on the docket.
Satan.
Well, you teed me up perfectly for what I was going to say, which was, while we avoided it this week, I can't see this next theme happening without some horror representation on the shelf.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I think it's probably going to happen. We'll see, but in the meantime, feel free to stop by the counter for a movie to watch. And of course, we will see you next time.
Be kind. Recommend. Hail Satan.